turn up, and the boy in the at the hotel at the reception.
Oh, this is right. I've forgotten about this.
Turn up, and I say, "Hi, Michael McEwan, just checking in." Looks at the screen and goes,
"Nope."
No, I could barely speak English. The poor guy's like, "No, I don't have a room." Like, sorry? Says, "I don't have a room. We're full." I said, "I know, but I have a booking. I booked this ages ago. Here's my reservation. Here's my booking number." He looks and he goes, "Oh," he basically said, "Oh yeah, I can see that we're meant to have you, but we're full." Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Bunkered Podcast in association with Motocaddy. An episode like no other is probably the best way I can think to put it, because this isn't your typical Bunkered Podcast. This isn't going out on a Tuesday morning. We're not talking about the weekend's activities. We are talking about one thing and one thing only, and that is the Masters Tournament. Very special episode where we're going to tell you about all our experiences of the first men's major of the year. So if you're listening, thank you very much for tuning in. If you are watching on YouTube, this is going to be recorded as well. Thank you very much. Don't adjust your sets. We always look like this. So thank you for watching. My name's Michael McEwan. Delighted to have your company. I'm joined from a safe social distance as ever by Bunkered editor Bryce Ritchie. Bryce, how are you?
I'm good.
Excellent.
Good. I think we need some bird sounds piped in through, so it's get that authentic Augusta feeling.
Yeah, and just a little, so you can hear the sound of Ray's Creek lapping at you.
Yeah, we need that. We'll do that.
That would be very nice. But as I said at the top, we've never done a special edition of the Bunkered Podcast so far. That, I think, in itself tells everyone what a big deal the Masters is. We don't do it for just any old tournament.
No, not at all. Not at all. So let's go.
Excellent. But first, I want to know your very, very first, before we get to Augusta, tell me your first memories of watching the Masters on TV, back in the black and white days, I'm sure.
That is absolutely the wrong place to start. I remember my mum going wild when Woosnam won.
In 91?
Yeah, I remember that. Because she's the exact same height as Ian Woosnam. For some reason that made her support him. But I remember watching Sandy. That was 88, wasn't it?
88, yeah.
I remember watching that. I have to say, before that, not sure.
Not so much.
Not sure.
Yeah, I only really remember it about sort of mid-90s. Because my dad watched it every year. I mean, the Masters was the big golf tournament that he was into. And I remember him saying to me one year...
I can almost hear the music.
Can't you? Can't you? But I remember Dad saying to me one time, mid-90s, I'm sort of 10, 11, and he said to me, "Look, I want you to come and see this. There's this guy here that's going to be a huge name, so I think you should watch." And it was Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, that's a really cool name. But beyond that, I didn't really care a huge amount. But that kind of planted the seed. And ever since then, year on year, I've watched the Masters pretty much religiously. We've covered it from afar for many years. You're into what? It's coming close to 20 years for you at Bunkered. So you're getting a double testimonial probably.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. At least I'm getting something.
And I'm coming up for 17 years. So between us, we've been covering the Masters for a long time. But it's only relatively recently that we went to Augusta for the first time. You went in 2016. Yep. Tell us about that. Tell us, when that accreditation came through, I remember how buzzing you were.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Mr. Ritchie doesn't smile often, by the way, but that day, like a Cheshire cat.
Yeah, we worked hard to get our foot in the door. It's not easy. And we managed to pull a few strings. And when that came through that it was happening, that was pretty exciting. Because we got to do everything else, every other major we wanted, and Ryder Cups
and so on, yeah.
The Masters always seemed just slightly out of our reach. But there we go.
Mm-hmm.
What can I say about it? When I think back on that, I remember the overriding memory of that very first day. Because obviously you fly on back then you think you flew on a Saturday from Heathrow on the 4 o'clock flight.
To Atlanta,
which had everyone from the tour on that flight, all in first class, of course.
Oh, naturally.
Aye. Monty in the first class, whatever, and then
he turns left and you turn right.
Exactly. And you get to the airport, you pick up the hire car, and if everyone's ever been to Augusta from Atlanta Airport, you have to drive for like 3 hours?
Best
Something
part
like that.
of
3 hours on the most boring road in pitch black, all the way to Augusta. And
Interstate 20.
Is that what it is?
It's burned.
Is it the Bobby Jones Highway or something like
you
that?
get to that, yeah. It's burned in my consciousness now.
Yeah, and but usually you arrive about 2:30, 3 in the morning, and you're excited about going to the course for the first time. But I remember the very first time I went, I actually accidentally drove. I was in Augusta, and I drove past Magnolia Lane.
You're kidding?
And you don't realise it, and you think, oh, there it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, oh. And then you're in your hotel within 20 minutes, and I think the least we say about the hotels the better.
Oh, go on. You had a shocker that first year.
Yeah, I've never stayed in more awful accommodation. The problem is I'm a
Snob?
No, I'm a cleanliness freak. I don't like dirt, and I don't do camping. But I would have done camping that week.
Really?
Yeah, I would have done. I can safely say the name of the hotel now because apparently it's been done up, but it was the Augusta Budget Inn.
I mean, straight away it sounds awful.
Yeah.
The word budget is not screaming opulence.
There's
no choice of pillows when you arrive there, I'm sure.
I mean, it was, without a shadow of it was awful. There was blood on the walls.
What?
There was cigarette doubts. The sheets were manky. The toilet was disgusting. The shower was tiny. There wasn't paint on the walls. I slept in my clothes for an entire week. And I had to buy... I went to the merchandise tent and obliterated my credit card, but I had to because I needed more clothes. I could not. I didn't ever take my socks off in that hotel. It was horrific. But then, as everyone says, you go from what is effectively hell to, well, for me it was, to heaven.
Yeah. We'll come back to hell in a little while because
Yeah.
it's important to give people
I think it's very important that we address just how bad it is.
Yes, I agree. But as you say, heaven is waiting beyond the gates. And it's quite literally gates with high fences wrapped all the way around the perimeter.
And I'm lucky because I got to experience the old Augusta. You got the new plush one. Not that mine wasn't plush, but the car park was in a different place. And you went through a different area to get in, and I got into the old press centre. So you obviously go straight in to get, you're not allowed to go anywhere until you're accredited. And I sat down at my desk, took out my laptop, did all that stuff, and I was just, why am I still sitting here? Let's get out. And the
emails can wait.
And as soon as from the old press centre, you could walk to the right-hand side of the first fairway in 5 minutes. And I always said the very first thing that hits you about Augusta is the smell. It just smells like, I can't say it any other way, it smells like Augusta. It smells different.
Is that caused by the pine straw?
I think so.
Yeah.
And it's magical. It's amazing. And I remember I wandered about for a wee bit, got my bearings, and then I just made a beeline for Amen Corner. So I walked down.
Is that the first place you went?
Yeah, I walked down. I think that's what I did. I walked down 10, up the right of 11, and then bang.
There it is.
And I've said to loads of people who've always asked, what's it like? And it's like you're looking at a postcard because nothing moves.
It's hard to take in, isn't it?
Yes, there's no crowds. And hard to take in is exactly it, because I remember standing here, I can't actually believe I'm standing here. I mean, I do consider myself quite lucky, but there's loads of golf journalists in the media room that have, media centre, have been there for years. And even still, some of them, you talk to them, they don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
You know, it's Augusta.
That's quite unusual.
Yes. In golf, yes. You know, we've been at Ryder Cups and had guys say, oh God, another Ryder Cup. I can just, here we go again. Yeah. One of those weeks. Never hear that at Augusta. And you stand at 12 and you can't quite believe you're there. Yeah. It's mind-numbing. It's absolutely everything you would want it to be.
Yeah, surreal experience. Tell us a bit about the old media centre, because you experienced that, I didn't. It has been compared in the past to the Senate from Star Wars, how steep all the bleachers
Yeah, a
are.
wee bit. Yeah. Well, it was a lot smaller than the current one. But it wasn't that. It was still lovely. It was a lot more traditional. And it sort of fitted in with everything that was there. When you walked up the back, it was quite steep. And I think you can look up pictures of it on Getty Images to see what it was like. But you walked up the back, and that's where the kitchen was. And we'll come to the food later.
Oh, yes. That's a separate discussion, I
But
think.
that was quite cool. You could sit and have your lunch or your dinner overlooking the press centre, and the ease of access from that media centre to the golf course was remarkably different from the ease of access you get now. But a lot of guys loved that old media centre. It was pretty cool. And for example, the room where they took players in looked like a room they just had left over. They put some chairs out.
What, the interview room?
Yeah, the interview
Really?
room with a desk with a flag on it and stuff. And you think, how, even that time ago, how did they think that was what they wanted to project to the players, in the media? And you could move chairs about now. Now it's not like that at all. But it's
very much not like that now.
Yeah.
As I say, we'll come to that. You're obviously assigned a desk for the week as well, and I think at that point you realised, okay, I always knew it was big, but now I really know it's big because of the people around you.
Yeah, and you sit down, and I was quite lucky. I was sitting next to a guy called Lance Lannert, and we're still good pals. And he worked for, was it the Amarillo Globe News?
Amarillo Globe News, yeah.
Amarillo Globe. Which is a huge paper. And you get that feeling when you're first in the door at Augusta in the first couple of days, you think, is someone just going to tap me in the shoulders and say, Mr. Ritchie, there's been a mistake?
Get out.
You're scum. You need to go home. You do feel that. And I remember sitting once talking to Lance, and I was just, my head, my laptop, and I was just out the corner of my eye, I could just see a green jacket standing right in front of me. Because you could walk up along the corridors, and I just saw this green jacket, and I thought, oh no. But it was Lance's boss. It was the guy that owned Lance's paper, and this guy owned like 15 newspapers, and he was a green jacket involved in the committee and so on. And extremely friendly. That's one of my big memories of Augusta is how friendly it is.
They've got a reputation, don't they? The green jackets. A lot of people have said to me in the past that they're quite standoffish, almost resentful of the fact that they've got to host this tournament. My experience, and I think I can speak for you, nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, no, I've never thought that. They're very gracious. He was fascinated that I was from Scotland. He wanted to know who I worked for. He wanted to know how many magazines we sold.
I'll bet he did.
He wanted to know whereabouts in Scotland I was from, where I played golf and stuff, and very friendly. And I've always, any interaction I had with a green jacket was always respectful.
Because people don't understand, I think, that unlike other championships and other tournaments, this thing isn't run by volunteers as such. It's run by the club members.
Yeah.
They all muck in.
Yeah.
Put their jackets on for the week. They muck in and they make sure that everyone on site, whether it's a patron or a member of the media, whoever else, a player, an agent, anything, that if they have any issues whatsoever, any questions, they're on hand to help. It's quite amazing when you see just how helpful they are.
Yeah, and for example, you can go to other tournaments and not get an answer when you raise a query.
Mm.
Augusta,
We've
you
both
get an
had
answer.
experience of that.
Yeah. Augusta, you get an answer. Like, for example, during the par 3 tournament, where the 9th hole is, there's a little press section.
Yeah.
You can stand there, and when the players come up and are finishing and are signing autographs and so on, you can just say to one of the green jackets, "Can I speak to him? Can you bring him over?" And he wants your name, and that player has no option but to come and speak to you.
That's incredible, isn't
And that is quite rare. That doesn't happen at a lot of tournaments. And if it does, a lot of the time players will say no, or they're busy.
Mm-hmm.
You never get rejected.
Speaks to the power of the place, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What about
Power
the shop?
of the jacket.
The power of the jacket. That's what I might call the podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe not. the shop. That's the one thing that people really have asked me loads about, is the shop and how much I spent. And I can see, for anyone watching this on YouTube, I apologise if you're listening, but I'll try my best to explain. Bryce has brought in some of the many bits of merch that he invested in when he was there. We've got a nice Masters mug. That's as you would expect, Masters green, yellow interior. We've got a Masters flag hanging. What's the date on that?
2015. 2015. Was that 2015?
You weren't there in 2015.
Don't know where I got that from.
Someone must have brought it back for you.
Yeah.
And the pièce de résistance.
That's right, because I gave my flag to my brother-in-law.
Well, there you go. How generous.
Nice guy, yeah.
I hope he appreciates it. But the standout item, Bryce, that you've brought in is this tremendous garden gnome wearing a Masters green baseball cap, carrying the clubs, and he is, of course, wearing the white caddy overalls. Does he have a name?
I think his name's Augustus.
I like it.
I like it. That's the best $39 I've ever spent.
What?
Yeah.
$39?
Yeah, that's good.
Does your wife know you spent $40 on a gnome?
Listen.
She doesn't. I can tell by the pause.
No, that's just a small fraction of what I spent the first year.
Go on then. Do you want to divulge?
I think I spent about £1,300. Now, not all of it was for me.
Yeah, that's true.
I spent a lot on, family, pals, you.
You did bring me back a polo shirt and a hat. I appreciate it.
I think I bought you back more than that.
Did you?
But it's very easy to go crazy. I bought a dog bowl. I don't even have a dog. So
You've got a cat?
Cat uses it. Still uses it. It's brilliant.
How much was the dog bowl?
I think that was pretty cheap. It was about $300.
But no, you know what? That's a good point.
Cheap. That's the thing about Augusta. It's dirt cheap.
Yeah. They don't rip you off.
But it's not uncommon to see people take full advantage of that.
Yeah.
There's a guy next to me at the till who spent about $6,000. And I remember
$6,000.
I remember saying to the girl, she heard me, she saw me looking over as if to say, "My God," and she said, "No, I got you this morning $10,000." That's quite
on what?
It's quite regular. Everything.
So it wasn't just like one of the big oil paintings that you get that you can splash.
Well,
with
I never asked.
on.
I don't know. I mean, it's $10,000 on
It's a lot of baseball caps.
That's a lot. Well, apparently there's 150. Is it 150 baseball caps to buy?
Different styles. Yeah,
it's well known that there are people that buy every single one, because the way they do it, you can go into the media centre and just fill bags, pay for it, and on the way out there's a UPS desk which is always staffed, never a huge queue. You just walk up and hand it over and they deliver it to your house whenever you want it. It might be the next day, it might be in 2 or 3 days, and then you go and enjoy the golf.
It's just magnificent.
That's how to do it.
The funny thing is when you see the UPS lorries coming in and out, where the new media centre is, which we'll get to, you see a bit more of the grounds than you would have with the previous media centre. So you see a bit more of what goes on, the machine behind the course. And I was quite struck by the UPS lorries coming in and out, just shuttling in more merch from the warehouse so they could stock it up and ship it out.
Scary.
So I tell you, it's a well-oiled machine as well.
But when you're talking there about the behind the scenes and so on, I've been to. You ever done hospitality at Augusta?
Nope.
No, never had that opportunity. Michael?
About to hear all about it, I'm sure.
That's a shame. Well, on one of my trips, the guys at Rolex asked if I wanted to go.
Thump.
I know. I didn't get anything though.
No free Sky Dweller.
No, I got a coffee. But I didn't realise you don't see where the hospitality is, but it's there, and it's up the right hand side of the first fairway. And I think there's hospitality somewhere down the other end of the.
Is it?
There might be hospitality around about the 5th or something. I'm not sure, but there's definitely hospitality up the first, and there's like 2 securities to go through and stuff, and you sit out in the veranda, and it's quite nice.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's quite nice.
Well, I can only imagine, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe next year.
Well, Mr. Rolex, if you're listening,
yeah,
don't forget all your pals. That must have been a pretty cool experience to do all that and to see the old shop as well. Another thing that I think some people will be surprised to hear, though, is that that's not the only shop on the grounds. There's the pro shop where I don't think, you certainly can't now. I don't know if it was different for you first time, but you can't go now. That's where a lot of the players go, though, and the merch is slightly different. So you'll get Masters merchandise, but in the shop you get Augusta National Golf Club merchandise. Is that right?
Yes, and there's slightly more upmarket stuff. I think there's like Peter Miller. There's maybe a couple of brands that do things, but they're not heavy on their brands. But yeah, the pro shop was closed off to members of the press the last year I went, which I think was 2018. So you couldn't go in then, but yeah, I spent a lot of money in there.
That's one of the few places you can't go, though, the pro shop. Pretty much everything else is open. You know, the locker rooms, the clubhouse. You can go in the clubhouse, can't you, and mill about?
Yeah, somebody told me, I can't remember who it was, whether it was Lance or, John Huggin gave me a bit of support the first year I went and helped me and said, you can go here, you can go there and do this and do that. And it might have been him that said, you can go into the clubhouse and basically just do what you want.
Now, if Huggy had told me that, I think I'd be going,
right,
very good. You're trying to get me chucked out?
So I thought, I'm going to give it a go. And you wander in. And I was in the locker room. I walked in and Sergio putting his shoes on and things like that. And it's like, why? This is really strange. But then you realise there's a decorum, there's a line that you don't cross.
Yeah.
With certain things that you can't just suddenly sit down and start asking questions, but you can organise things to be done in there, and you are allowed to go and look for somebody and then organise what you want to do. But yeah, you're not allowed in the butler cabin and the pro shop. I think everywhere else is pretty much free reign.
The butler cabin, am I right in saying that Alan Shipnick, formerly of Sports Illustrated and Golf.com, yeah, he's now started up a new, is it the Fire Pit Collective with Matt Janella?
Yeah.
So Alan, we've had on the pod before, great guy, we've had some good laughs with him, but did he not get kicked out
twice
of Augusta? Twice?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And he was banned for a following year, wasn't he? Or was he?
I'm not sure about that, but if you're out, you're in trouble, because there's all sorts of things like you're not allowed to use you, as soon as you leave the press centre, you cannot take your phone with you.
That's right.
Phones are banned. So you can see everyone walking out the press centre just tapping their pockets to make sure as soon as they leave the door, they don't have their phone, because if you copy your phone, you're dead.
You're out. There's no questions, no second chances.
Ian Carter of the BBC told me that.
That's right, yeah.
He said, I left the press centre and he just got a tap in the shoulder, and the guy said, have you got something in your pocket? And he thought, oh, sorry, that was it. He was escorted off the grounds. That's a golf reporter for the BBC, escorted off the grounds, and he basically begged to get back in, and they let him in the next day. But there was no uncertain terms. You do not flout the rules in any way, and nobody does.
Like running, for example, you're not allowed to run on the grounds.
Yeah.
Didn't see a single person trying that. The thing with the seats...
Do you know why? Everyone's just happy.
Well, that's it. You don't see a miserable person at Augusta, do you? The thing with the seats is quite funny as well, because you can obviously go and take your pew, bring your own seat, or buy your own seat from the shop.
I did.
Why am I not surprised? You bought a rug, did you not, or a throw?
A throw, yeah. It was $300. My wife hates it.
Yeah, well,
probably because it's orange, red, and yellow.
But you like it.
I like it. That's what's important.
I had my fun. That's all that matters. But yeah, you completely thrown me $300 on a throw.
It's worth it.
Is it though?
It was worth it. It did. You go with an empty suitcase. That's it. So you need to fill it. I did.
It sounds like you did. Where was I going with that?
I don't know. Somewhere after a £300 throw.
Yeah, you don't see a miserable person at Augusta. Everyone abides by the rules, and as I say, the thing with the chairs is interesting, because you take your spot. Say you want to go and sit behind the 12th and just watch players tee off there all day. You plank your seat down, you put your business card in the back of it, and then off you toddle. And someone else can take your seat, but as soon as you come back and you say, that's my business card, they have to, and they do, get up and toddle off and let you have it. It's so courteous. Yeah. It's weird.
Unlike anything else.
Very much so.
The only time at Augusta where you'll see people acting like they might do at a normal tournament is during the par 3. Because the par 3s, you don't really get that perspective from the TV, but there's a big hill that sort of surrounds a few of the holes, and a lot of people, rather than go into the part of the course, they just sit there and they get beers, and it gets quite rowdy, and you'll see people rolling about, whatever, but I have to say I've never seen anyone ticked off for any behaviour, but that's when you do see people having a good time, shall we say.
Even at that, it's hardly the 16th at TPC Scottsdale.
No.
Very different. Look, let's come to the away from the course element of it, because we could talk about the tournaments that you attended and who played well, but look, that's kind of irrelevant really to the story. Away from the gates of Augusta National Golf Club, what were your first impressions of Augusta, Georgia?
Well, see, it's funny because for the first year, and I didn't actually see it that much until sort of the Wednesday, Thursday, because on the Monday I just wanted to spend all day at the golf course. So I think I was there about 7:30 in the morning, and I think the first night I went home about 9-10 at night. Then it's dark.
If you're going back to that hotel, you probably just want to lock the doors and hide.
And I tell you what, you're going back to that hotel, you want it to be dark. But then I think it was the Wednesday or the Thursday night, I kind of finished a bit earlier. I think I was done by about 8, something like that. And then I decided to go to the hotel and get some food. The first few nights I ate at the course. And then I found I can't remember what that bar's called. It was a bar. What's the street? Is it Broad Street? Downtown Augusta.
Yep.
There was a bar there, and I kind of went there most nights, and they did a burger and whatever. But I didn't realise the quality of restaurant in Augusta is maybe slightly lacking.
It's a euphemism.
Yeah, and
there's no Michelin starred restaurants in Augusta.
No,
as far as I know.
not that I'm looking for that, but maybe a nice Italian or something would be all right. But this was what they would call a proper dive bar, and I sat at the bar. So I was on my own. You sit anywhere else, you just look like a weirdo. And they were cooking my burger behind the bar on a frying pan type thing, I don't know what you call those things, the big terrible restaurants have with a flat
plancher grill or something like that.
Something like that. They're cooking it behind the bar. So the girl's pouring my pint and then cook. I was like, I would tell you what, it was good.
Was it?
It was really good. But 4 nights in a row of burgers just
takes its toll, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Did you not say you went to Adam Scott's favourite place, or so-called favourite place?
Yeah, that was on my second trip there. Can't remember what it was called, but I stayed slightly further out. Was it in a Motel 8?
Yes.
Which is not much better than the Augusta Budget Inn.
8 is the number of stars it would get out of 100 in TripAdvisor.
Maybe. That was also a whole... and what I realised is that if you're going to Augusta, you don't want to stay in a Motel 8, because that's where all the I don't want to say lads, but it's where the groups of guys and their wives and girlfriends hang out. So they go to the golf course, and after what people don't realise, that once a play at Augusta's finished, you're out. You have to leave. It's not like at the Open you can stay till 1 a.m.
Yeah,
lying there, you're done. They close the gates and you're out. So everyone has to go somewhere. Because there's nowhere to go and drink and party, whatever, in certain parts of the hotel, people hang out in the car parks. Mm-hmm. So the Motel 8,
they essentially tailgate offside, don't they?
It's rammed. And it's not nice. But across the road, there was, apparently, that's where Adam Scott, that's the only restaurant that I thought was nice. I can't remember its name.
Did you go looking for him or something?
No, it's just the person behind it. I was kind of stunned as I was sitting there. I was like, this is actually nice. He said, yes, it's Adam Scott's favourite place when he's here. I was like, oh, right, brilliant.
You've been back every night since?
And he's not there. It's heartbroken.
I can imagine you were. So you went 2016, 17, 18, and finally in 2019 you decided to be a good guy and give me a chance to go.
And let you go.
Yeah. Picked a good year for it.
You know what, no disrespect to Danny Willett, but I get Danny Willett and you get Tiger Woods.
Pretty good.
But I got to see an unbelievable choke. So...
You didn't get to see Tiger Woods winning his first major in 11 years and major number 15.
But you got to give me something.
Well,
you
were there first. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I had similar experiences to you. I stayed in a complete tip.
Where did you stay? You stayed in the same hotel as me.
motel something or other. Or hotel. I'm sure 8 was in it, or was it a Days Inn? I can't remember. It's not really that important, but what is important is that...
You survived.
Yeah, and remember what happened when I turned up?
No.
So I got off the same flight as you, got my hire car. Atlanta Airport, if you've not been, is pretty much the size of Glasgow. So by the time
home of FedEx, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So by the time you get your hire car, you've been off the plane for about 2.5 hours.
That's right.
Then you've got to drive another 3 hours.
Yeah.
So it's the middle of the night when you're arriving. And
you land about 9:30.
It was about
9:30,
that,
10, something like that. You don't get your hire car till about 11:30.
If you're lucky, because you've got to get through security and all that sort of stuff. But I remember arriving at my hotel and, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, jet lagged, exhausted, but excited. Just wanted to basically get my head down so that the next thing I knew, it was tomorrow and I'm off to Augusta National. Great scenes. Turn up and the boy in the at the hotel at the reception.
Oh, this is right. I've forgotten about this.
I turn up and I say, "Hi, Michael McEwan, just checking in." Looks at the screen and goes,
"Nope."
No, I could barely speak English. The poor guy's like, no, I don't have a room. Like, sorry? Says, I don't have a room, we're full. I said, I know, but I have a booking. I booked this ages ago. Here's my reservation. Here's my booking number. He looks and he goes, he basically said, oh yeah, I can see that we're meant to have you, but we're full. And I remember saying to him, I was like, look, I've just flown across the Atlantic and I've driven for 3 hours. I don't care if you have to go and wake someone up. Get me a room and we'll discuss it in the morning. And he was a bit stunned. He was trying to phone his manager who wasn't answering because it was the middle of the night. Why would you? And eventually, after, I'm not kidding, about 3/4 of an hour, he goes, oh yeah, I can get you in here. And he was panicking, sweat dripping off him, the poor bloke. And gets me to this room. Brilliant. Head down, out like a light, waking with a start at 4:45 with the phone ringing. Pick it up, and it's your man at reception. Mr. McEwan, you need to come back. You haven't completed the check-in process. And I'm going, I remember saying to him, it's 4:45 in the morning. We will discuss it tomorrow, and hung up on him. So I didn't get off to the best of starts, but I woke early and was straight to the course. And like you're just in dreamland, aren't you? It's just completely blown away. The media centre that I went to was different to yours, clearly.
Yeah.
You saw the new one, but that was the very first experience I had of an Augusta Media Centre. And this thing's purpose-built at the cost of...
$65 million. Although they're not releasing that, but that's how much it cost.
I mean, there you go. And fancy leather seats. It's gigantic. You're at the bottom end of the driving range looking back down with these big panoramic windows.
It's constantly being cleaned.
That's true. That is so true.
Someone's always cleaning it. And you walk in on a Monday morning, it's 7:30 on a Monday morning and somebody's cleaning it. You think, you feel it saying, mate, it's 7:30 on a Monday. It's clean.
No one's been here for a year. How much more dirty could it be? But that's the thing. It lies empty for 50 weeks of the year, and then we all turn up and take our seats. That's amazing.
I think it is amazing that media centre is astounding, considering it's used for 2 weeks a year.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't describe how ridiculous.
And it's a permanent structure.
Yeah,
People need to understand it's not a tent that goes up and down.
No.
This thing is there all the time. It's like you're walking into the White House. Like no exaggeration. That is exactly what it's like. I remember pulling up in my SUV as well because the guys at the hire car place didn't have the little Toyota Yaris I was meant to have, so they said, I'm afraid you're just going to have to take that ute over there, Mr. McEwan. And I'm going, okay, fine by me. So I pull up in my SUV and I see Jerry Tardy. He was the editor-in-chief of Golf Digest, I think.
He still is.
Is he still there?
I think so.
Pulling into his own private parking space right by the gates.
He got his own.
So if you've gone through the Masters for a set period of time, is it 20 years, 30 years?
It's 30.
30. You get your own space. Yeah. I think that was his first year. He looked quite embarrassed about it, I have to say, but I wouldn't be.
My heart bleeds. What kind of car did he have?
Some rubbish hire car thing.
Good.
I certainly don't think he drove from, where are they, Connecticut?
Yeah.
It wasn't as good as mine. I could have filled that car with at least half the people in the media centre. It was huge.
Brilliant.
Great. I had my aviator specs on, feeling like I was in Top Gun. It was just
Brilliant.
Amazing. But unlike you, I didn't go straight to the course. I went straight to the shop because, again, new shop on the site, I think, of the old media centre.
Yes.
And it is just gigantic. And I didn't spend as much as you, but I think I easily parted with...
I think you said you spent about 500 quid or something for
500 quid. Guts of that, yeah. But I wanted to get in there early because I was worried, not being so wet behind the ears and not knowing better.
That it would all sell out?
I was worried it would sell out.
Yeah.
Because we had that experience. We've had it at Ryder Cups. Yep. You know, you walk in and you go to get your bearings on the Monday.
Sold out at Gleneagles.
Yeah. I saw stuff at Gleneagles that I wanted early in the week, went back later in the week, and it was gone. Mm-hmm. Like before play even got underway on Friday.
I bought something that was on a mannequin at Gleneagles because it was the last one in the shop.
What was that?
It was the actual Ralph Lauren top that the American team were wearing that week. It was a player's top. It was the last one in the shop. I said, I'm going to have that.
Stripping a mannequin bare.
Brilliant.
I remember on the Tuesday night I got to go to Augusta Country Club as well, which is right next door to Augusta National. So it's the other golf course that you might have heard people talk about.
Yeah, I get involved with the police there.
This sounds better than mine. Go.
No, that was the... Do you remember I was filming some videos for Facebook and it was early in the morning and I decided to go and film next to... I can't remember why. I think I was just showing people what Augusta Country Club was like because it's the one that's... It's next door, isn't it? It's
behind the 12th green,
yes,
if you like. Backs onto Amen Corner.
So I was on one. It was a public road, and I'm just standing filming myself on my phone, talking mince. And the security guard turns up with a gun. Like, he doesn't know what to point at me, but he's armed. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm just filming myself, talking at 7:30 in the morning. Nothing really that important. As you're not allowed to do that here. And then I decided to stand my ground. I remember I said, well, it's a public road. He's like, yeah, you're not. And he's like, yeah, but I said, I'm not going inside. I've got no interest. I'm just a public road. And he was like, okay. And I said, but you get 5 minutes. I was like,
really?
No problem.
I'll take 2.
See you later.
The other 3 are yours. Well, I got to go on the grounds.
You got to go inside without people pulling guns.
And I'll tell you what a place. I mean, if Augusta National wasn't there, you would say that place was just stunning as well. I didn't see much of the course, but the grounds, the clubhouse, and absolutely unreal.
That's the one that they've bought a couple of holes from behind 13th tee and 12th green.
Yeah, so they bought a couple of those holes.
Potentially extend. Yeah.
I hope they don't.
I know, but that's one of the things about Augusta's changing all the time, the actual town, because they keep buying up so much land every year. The amount of money they've spent buying land is quite scary.
It is. And they don't stop. I mean, there's probably more being spent as we speak and as people are watching this. That was for the European Tour dinner, I think, on either the Monday or the Tuesday night. I have to make an apology, though, at this point, to Diane Knox, Russell's sister.
Yep.
Because... obviously, Diane's now based in the States. She's done a lot of work for the PGA Tour and has done some stuff with Steve Elkington for his Secret Golf channel, which is great. And I know Diane quite well, so I'd mentioned that I was going over, and she said, I'm going to be there too, let's meet up. I go, perfect, no problem at all. So we'd arranged to meet on Tuesday, 11 o'clock, next to the big leaderboard by the side of the first fairway. And that was fine, except... about 10:30 on the Tuesday, I realised that was Fred Ridley's press conference, the chairman of Augusta. And that is usually the best press conference of the week. I thought, I can't really afford to miss that.
Just stand it up.
I did. Because obviously, like you said, you're not allowed your phone. So I tried...
You'll be the only guy in the world that's ever done that to Knoxy.
I know. I felt terrible. I messaged afterwards. I messaged her straight away on Twitter, hoping that she would get it before she turned up. And the whole time I was listening to Fred Ridley speaking, I was thinking, I wonder if she's given up yet. It was terrible because there's no other way of getting in touch with people. So at some point, Diane has gone there, unless she stood me up too. But she's gone there, and at some point she's decided, he's not shown. What a kid, and had to clear off. So Diane, if you're listening or watching. I think I said sorry at the time anyway, but again, for the record, sorry about that.
There's a big regret, but I've got a bigger regret. I forgot to enter my name into the hat to play, to have a chance to play the course.
That was on your last year going,
My last
2018.
year.
So explain for listeners and
So
viewers
obviously,
what the deal is.
every journalist gets to put their name in the hat at the start of the week. Well, I think actually your name goes in the hat on the. I think it's they open it up on the Tuesday afternoon. I think, and I think they pull it on the. Is it the Sunday?
Saturday.
Saturday.
So you've got 48 hours to think about it.
Yeah, and put your name in the hat, and I think they pull out. I don't know how many names. Is it about 27 names or something?
I think it's enough
It's
for
a weird number.
Well, it's enough for 5 4-balls, is it not?
Is it? No, it's
Maybe it's
Is
6
it?
4-balls, so
I
that'd
think
be
it's more than
24.
that. Yeah, it's quite a big number.
Yeah.
And this is everyone from writers, broadcasters, photographers. First 2 years I didn't come out of the hat.
Gutted.
And on the third year, I was sitting in the Saturday and I just heard the announcement come over the tannoy saying that's the entry to the ballot closed. And I hadn't put my name out.
What a clown.
And my heart just sank.
Because you would have had a good chance that year.
I know.
The more you go, the better your chances, because
Everyone else who gets picked are barred.
That's right.
Barred from going in it for 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
So you would have had a great chance.
My old man was furious. Not even upset with me, just furious. I thought, that's it, the inheritance is gone. I was just...
It's okay now.
It's all right now, yeah. But I was just, oh my God. But I remember I was really busy. That's why I forgot. I was actually working.
Well, actually, that's true. You were the guy that broke the Dilly Dilly story that
That's
year.
right.
So
Yeah, I was actually working.
was
So,
it worth it?
Yeah. But that's it.
Let's pretend the boss isn't listening.
I know.
Was it?
But I've got two. Also, my mother-in-law and my wife, they were on a plane. I've got another regret. They were flying to Paris once, going to some conference thing, and they met a guy on the plane, and she's saying, we're talking about whatever, and he mentioned golf, whatever, and she said, oh, my son-in-law is a golf writer, and the guy's ears pricked up, and he said, oh, what does he do? He says he's editor of a golf magazine and blah blah blah. And this guy was a member at Augusta, and he gave my mother-in-law his business card and said, anytime he wants around Augusta, just let me know.
You're kidding.
And I remember thinking, that's a lot of mince. And I got that, and I just thought, that's just rubbish, because that's just never going to happen. It sounds like a made-up myth. Like, I met a guy that said, it's nonsense. And she actually, this was way before we went to Augusta, like 2 or 3 years before we went to Augusta for the first time. And I've no idea what I've done with the business card. I've got about that much business cards in the office. And I remember, this was years ago, I remember maybe 3 years ago, I thought, what's the point of having all these? Just digital world. Chucked them. I binned them.
You idiot.
Can you believe that?
What? That's just... There's no words for that, Bryce, other than that's stupid.
But the annoying thing is, I do believe things come in threes. So that's the ballot. That guy. I've got another disaster at Augusta coming. It's bound to happen.
And then something good will happen, presumably.
Well, I would hope.
Everything in balance.
Yeah, maybe.
I had nothing but a great experience that first time. I went to barbecue with Niall Horan from One Direction on the Thursday night. He hired his company Modest Golf. They hired a house in the nice part of town, not that far from the club, but there are a few nice places. We'll come to the bad ones in a minute.
Well, I'm surprised Niall wouldn't stay in a budget inn.
No, we weren't rooming next to each
You
other
could buy the chain.
like that.
You could build a house for the week and then knock it down.
But that was great fun. He had a big barbecue in the back garden, and Connor Moore, another Irish lad that does all the impressions, he was there, he did a bit, and just brilliant fun. I mean, that's the thing about Augusta, again, to come back to the point you made, everyone is happy, everyone's having a good time, and it felt, for me, whilst there was a lot of hard work, I mean, I was grafting, I promise, but it felt like it was one big party the whole week, even though there weren't spots in the town where things were happening, it was all little pop-up places, and everywhere you went, you were going to have fun.
Yeah, that's true. Downtown, it's not like other tournaments. It's quite different. You kind of have to know somebody that's happening somewhere, and there's something going on to find somewhere that's good. If you're on your own and you're just flying about, you are basically on your own. There's nothing going on.
Mm.
You have to know what's happening. You need to be in the mix. But I also went to hospitality with Maker's Mark.
What's that?
Is it like an American bourbon whiskey or something like that?
All right.
And it's across from Washington Road, so it's outside the grounds, but it's still linked to Augusta because they provide some of the liquor for Augusta National, but they don't tell anyone that. And I was in there, and you think, why would you want to go to hospitality that's not on the grounds at Augusta? Like, surely you'd want to be in the grounds, but it was mobbed, and they all had tickets for Augusta. I think, why are you outside next to the petrol station?
Yeah.
In a hotel bar when you could be 100 yards over the road in there?
Yeah.
Strange.
You can get in. Why are you not?
No.
I have to talk a little. You have to indulge me about Tiger Woods and the fact I was there for his 15th major win. First in 11 years. First Masters win in 14. Couldn't have picked a better one to go to. Because you were back home. You went to a wedding that night, didn't you? On the Sunday of the Masters.
I think that was Andrew Jewett's wedding.
Yeah.
At Glen Eagles.
Yeah. And everyone there was talking about it.
Yeah. No, that was very strange because the tournament was finished by your dinner time and
That's
stuff.
right,
It was really quite strange. But it was just bizarre watching that unfold because I'll be honest, that wasn't meant to happen. You know, I've said before, Molinari absolutely fell apart.
Yeah.
I mean, you've never seen anything like it.
I mean, you talk about Spieth choking in your first year.
Yeah.
Molinari, hate to say it because I like the guy.
Of course it is.
Massive choke.
I made a terrible decision in 12 and everything just capitulated after that. But you have to be there standing at the end of the day, and you just couldn't have picked a better guy to take advantage of it. I mean, I remember when that sort of slowly happened, what was the feeling like in the press centre? Because see, when Spieth fell apart, I always like being in a press centre when something big happens. Like Adam Scott when he sort of slipped.
Yeah.
At, was that Lytham?
Lytham, yeah.
At the Open. That was kind of hard to take, especially because we're, fans. Spieth, that was mental in that. I mean, there was the shock going around the room that was actually happening. So what was it like on the flip side where people were thinking, Tiger Woods is going to win another major championship? Because I think most people, vast majority of people in that room must have thought this isn't happening.
I think that was it. I think a lot of people didn't want to think too much about it in case it didn't happen, because we've been there before. I mean, the Open in 2018 at Troon, fair enough, I think he was in the lead briefly quite early on in the final round and then faded. So the challenge was really over long before it was decided. Molinari, but ironically, won that one. But
Carnoustie.
Yeah, Carnoustie, yeah. But I think that people were excited at the prospect. I mean, you could feel the air shift, more so on the Saturday night when he really made his charge. I went out to see him about the turn. I was on the 10th tee, just on the left-hand side, saw him hit his tee shot, and as he walked off the tee, people were screaming and going mad. Respectfully, none of your mashed potato crap. I mean, they were being respectful, but really were behind Tiger. I think people sensed that, look, he's playing well, he looks fit, he looks healthy, there's a chance. And as he walked off the tee, I remember vividly, I was about 3 metres from him, and he had a smile on his face, like a really wry smile that almost, if you didn't know better, you would say that he'd already been told he was winning tomorrow, and this was the start of the procession. This was the start of the coronation. He just looked so content, as if, of course I'm going to win. And so that was really when it started. I remember writing that there was like electricity in the air that night, and it had nothing to do with the thunderstorms. And I mean that sincerely. It was all about Tiger. Yeah. I could hardly sleep that night on the Saturday night back in my hotel. Not just because
because of the roaches.
Not just because of that, or because of the crazy people banging on the walls. I was genuinely that excited, and it was just about Woods. as I've said, I like Frankie Molinari. I like Tony Finau, Brooks. It would have been great for Poulter to win. Didn't want any. At that point in time, they were the villains. I just wanted to see Tiger pull through.
It's something about Augusta that's a bit special, and I'm not demeaning any other tournament. And the Open has something special. I still think every tour player wants to win the Open, and to be considered a true great, you really do have to win the Open. It's the oldest, it's the greatest. There's nothing else you can really say about that. But there is something just a bit special about the Masters. I think you'll never see another sort of 4 minutes of sporting joy than when he walked off that 18th. See the TV coverage of that? Jim Nantz just lets the magic happen, and
perfect.
Tiger, there's no commentary. All you can just hear is the crowd. You can hear Tiger being like he's never been before, hugging his kids, and you think, this is just unreal.
It's one of those magical moments that I don't think people can think what they like about Tiger and have their own opinions. Of course they can, but that, I think, will be remembered as fondly, and it will endure longer than Jack's win in '86. You know, when he raises the putter above his head and after holding that putt in 17. Yeah. We've been watching that now ever since it happened. We're going to be watching replays of that moment with Tiger and his kids, and when he taps in, it was a little bit of a shame he didn't hold the putt coming down the hill and had to tap in. You were ready for one of the Tiger fist bumps. You can't. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to complain. The sight of Tiger celebrating and the sort of guttural, almost feline roar that came out of him when he celebrated, we're going to be watching that until our last days. What
was the media centre like when he came for his press conference? Because I've got a funny thing about the new media centre. I think it's actually... And it's happening because of the way social media is going. That press centre is so forward thinking, but I think it technically backfires on Augusta, because you can sit at your desk and change one of the channels on your laptop that they provide.
Three screens, incidentally.
Three screens, and you can just tune in to the press conference that's happening and watch it and listen to the questions being asked and do your work from that. You don't even have to go in the room. And I sat in a Justin Rose press conference, and there was about 6 people there. And I think they've maybe tried to address that.
Not so much the year that I was there, anyway. You could still do all the same things.
I know a few people were talking about things like that, that it's maybe backfiring on them a little bit, because the technology is so amazing, but you now don't need to be in the room.
And the need to get news out immediately.
They need people to ask questions
against each other.
Yes. Yeah. People want the questions, but they don't want to walk downstairs and sit down and then walk back up. It's that funny thing with the...
There was none of that when Woods won.
Full. Brilliant.
Absolutely full. Everyone standing at the back as well. I mean, Augusta kind of broke its own rules for that occasion, because you shouldn't be standing in the media centre. That's what the seats are there for. But when there's no more seats, what are you going to do? I remember Mark Steinberg standing just across the room from me. I'll be honest, he looked shell-shocked, completely shell-shocked. I don't think he could really take in what was going on. And in the initial aftermath when Woods won, no cheering in the press box, but there was a lot of cheering. I'm not going to say I took part next. I was busy trying to send out social media posts, but I gave a little bit of a fist bump because it's a special moment, and it was cool to actually be part of it in my own little way in the industry. But look, honestly, grown men crying. I saw journalists.
Really?
Genuinely journalists with lumps in their throats and a few guys wiping away the tears. It was unlike any other sporting experience that I've ever had or been part of. And the coolest guy amidst it all in the room, in the interview room, was Tiger. He was just... I remember the moderator saying, Tiger, welcome back. And that got a bit of a laugh. And he says, or should that be welcome home? And Tiger just sat there and went, thanks very much, Craig. Good to be here. And it was just... It just looked like that's where he belonged.
He knows how to handle it.
Yeah. It was an amazing, amazing year. So thanks for letting me take one for the team. That was good of you.
Cheers.
Following morning wasn't so good. Checking out the hotel. I was actually the last to leave the media centre that night because I just didn't want to go. Because you don't, do you? And I broke a rule as well by taking a quick selfie on the way out.
So did I. I've done that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Let it that bit out. But the following morning, checked out the hotel. I had to get back to Atlanta. I think my flight was at 10 o'clock at night. I deliberately picked the last flight, hoping I was going to come out of the lottery.
Everyone picks the last flight.
I didn't come out either, so I've not played the course. Instead, I spent most of Monday driving around downtown Augusta. And that's when I got a sense of just the disparity between Augusta National Golf Club and the city, town that it's in.
There's big poverty. Mm-hmm. It's quite sad. But the thing that a lot of people don't realise about Augusta National Golf Club is that they pump millions into that town. Millions.
Dread to think what it'd be like without it.
Exactly. And you can look at pictures of Augusta from the nursery. It's at the Fruitland Nursery from like the early 30s. Even look at pictures of Magnolia Lane. It's very, very different. And it's grown so much, but Georgia isn't a particularly affluent state, and it does, some parts you drive around, it's kind of,
it was intimidating in places. I'll be honest. I mean, like you
quite small, so
and I wasn't packing, as they would say. And
sitting in your SUV with your booster seat.
How did you know?
I know.
But I drove down Broad Street like you would have, and this is 2 miles or so from literally no more than 2 miles from the front gates. And I saw a little thrift shop. I thought, gotta go and check this out. And all the houses round about it, on either side of the road, were all boarded up. I mean, there were metal walls with boarded up windows. And I remember the one a couple of doors down from the thrift shop had an eviction notice stapled to the wall, stapled to the door, because I went up to a little nosy after being barked at by some feral dog that was hauling abuse at me. And yeah, sure enough, an eviction notice. And I noticed that one of the windows on that building had a faded Paw Patrol blind on it. And it's quite sad. And, a wee girl was, 18 months at the time, and I remember thinking that, and she was crazy about Paw Patrol at that age, and I remember thinking, what became of that kid or kids who are behind that? It's abject poverty. And you feel it's almost like there's just no hope. I hope that I'm wrong, but you feel like there's no hope for these people.
Yeah, there's not a lot. I believe there's a big regeneration project they're trying in Augusta. And in certain parts of the town, there's like a business district, but it ends quickly, which is quite sad. And there's, one place I've never been is the Old Town in Augusta. It's at the other end, the opposite end of Broad Street. I've just never been. And it's pretty grim. And some of we tip to people that go, if you're looking for merchandise, some of the dodgy looking thrift shops have old merchandise that people obviously see the shop, think I'm not getting in there. Mm-hmm. If you go in there, you can get some really cool stuff. Like you can get some stuff from 1997, old flags, pins. It's quite cool if you search about.
I remember in that shop that I went into, there was a wonderful bloke in there. Couldn't have been more welcoming. This tall black guy called Michael Everett. I remember his name. Don't think I'm ever going to forget that encounter, because he was so buoyant, so full of life. And he showed me around. He was desperate to show me around and, look over here, here's what we've got, and this is what we're doing. Shows me through another door and opens up into this vast warehouse space that's connected on. Pulls another door open, small little room, and it's just destitute people there getting some soup and sandwiches, and you're like, man. But he was, of all the people I met that week, I met a lot of people, and they were all, with the exception of the guy at check-in at the hotel, they were all brilliant, all helpful. He's the one that's left the biggest mark on me, because he was just such a nice, accommodating guy. But he warned me as I left. He's like, "Where's your car?" I pointed about 100 yards down the street next to a Family Dollar store. It's just down there. He's like, don't do that again. If you're coming back, don't do that. Park in front of this store. It's not safe around here for guys like you. Which I took to mean foreigners and small white guys.
Small white guys.
Yeah. There was a guy on the other side of the road sitting with a huge leather jacket on, talking to himself, having a big loud argument with himself. It was sad.
But I've driven about. There's some cool places when you drive out. I think you did the same as me. You take a bit of a trip and you go around what's that motorway again?
Interstate.
I'm sure
20.
It's the Bobby's. Is it not the Bobby
Well, it's the Bobby Jones Highway in and around Augusta.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, I think so.
So I usually, when you're a pit, I'll go north of that road back to the airport, or I'll go south of the road. South of the road is boring. I wish I hadn't bothered. I wasted hours just trawling about empty streets. But north is quite cool. And you get to see some sights. Actually, I can't remember the name of the town, but there's a town on that north side of the motorway on the way back to Atlanta that is one of the top 10 like historic towns in America.
Really?
Yeah, it's really nice. So I think it's sort of the Augusta and its periphery is quite rough.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also I drove into, what's the state next door? Is it Savannah? Is it Savannah?
No, it'll be, what have you got? Louisiana, South Carolina's
South Carolina?
To the east of it.
I drove into
Savannah's not a state.
No, sorry. That's terrible. I think I drove into South Carolina. I went the wrong way. I drove the wrong way for an hour because
Really?
I was looking at the wrong GPS.
So, let's look to this year then, just to finish up. Tiger's not going to be playing. We know that.
And we're not going.
And we're not going because of COVID restrictions, which is a shame. Brooks isn't going to be playing, we think. At this...
It's highly unlikely he's going to play, isn't it?
Yeah. So at this stage, using your betting knowledge, because you've had success at the Masters betting, let's finish off by let's give something back to the people. We've had great times at Augusta, so let's try and make some people rich. Who should they be putting their money on, do you reckon?
I've no idea.
Nice. So you're not going to share it with them?
No, I just think Augusta's different because it's such a small field.
Mm.
And what is there, like 90 odd? What's the field?
Give or
90
take,
something.
90, yeah.
And then you can take out, 20, 25 guys because they're ex-champions and they're just there for a laugh. Then you can probably take out 10 or 15 guys who are playing it for the first or second time. It's highly unlikely that,
Last time it happened?
1977?
79.
79, that was close. So that's unlikely that's going to happen. So you're looking at...
Take out the amateurs?
Yeah, taking out, there's so much you can just whittle it down to. You're probably looking at about 40 guys that have got a chance. Then if you want to be really mean, you can go into that 40 and look at guys and go, doesn't putt well enough, never going to have a chance. Can't do this. Short game's iffy.
Hits the wrong shot shape.
Yeah, all that stuff. Like guys like Graham McDowell, you'd never put money in him. Same with Martin Keimer. He's like Martin Keimer, he's maybe changed it now, but there was a few years we thought there's no point in putting money in him. Yep. There's just some guys just don't suit it. Before you know it, you're looking. I always think at Augusta, you're looking at about genuinely 20 guys.
Yep.
That's it. There's never really any real shocks at Augusta.
You say that, but you got Trevor Immelman at
I
how
did.
much?
I think I won Trevor Immelman. I think I won £750. I won. I think Cabrera. I won about £500. I won £500 in Bubba Watson.
So that throw paid for itself.
Also won money. Yes, that's what I like to tell her. I won money in Sergio and I never collected it.
Because you were so rich.
Because I did it in a bookies. And I had to go down there and get my 20 quid and then I just forgot. I think I won £21 or something like that. Each way bet a few years ago. But it's not easy, but it's a lot more. You make more informed decisions when you're gambling in Augusta.
Yeah.
And this year, I think you would be a fool to write off DeChambeau the way things are going. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. He will definitely have learned his lessons from November. I genuinely believe that. And I do think he's one of the best players in the world right now, so you can't write him off. And I also like the idea of a Patrick Reed. All
right. Rory, career Grand Slam, 7th attempt at it. Is this the year?
I think it's a big ask for Rory, considering he's making some changes. We don't know. Cameron, on our team, Cameron's written quite a good piece on the website about what Pete Cowan might be looking at with Rory. It's quite insightful, and whether he's making wholesale changes or small changes, Rory's clearly got a bit of an issue off the tee, but Rory's bigger problems are middle of the fairway. He's terrible from the middle of the fairway, from any distance. And I actually think that could be quite a simple fix, because there's something that's just off kilter with Rory. And I think Rory is a very determined player, and I think he will really he won't want to have a bad week, because potentially if Rory goes into Augusta and has a bad week, it'll ruin his season.
Very much so. It's the one and only big week of the year for him now.
It's the one big week of the year, whether he likes to admit that or not. If he doesn't, he's lying, because that puts him in unbelievable golf company and just puts his name in the history books that very few players will ever get to. So when he goes into that week and it doesn't work out and he has a bit of a disaster, I think that has a knock-on effect on his season, which potentially why in the last few years he's struggled.
Yeah, quite possibly.
So I do believe that he'll be determined to right the wrong. And listen, wouldn't surprise me if he did it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's unlikely.
Yeah. Tend to agree. I'm going to sum up my thoughts in 2 words. Dustin Johnson. Only 3 players have ever successfully defended the Masters. Jack, Faldo, Tiger. You're going to add DJ to that list this year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident about it. But look, the Masters will be coming up. We're going to be covering it remotely in line with pandemic restrictions. You can tell we're delighted about that. We'll be back next year, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But please do check out bunkered.co.uk for all of the latest news and the build-up to the Masters during the week itself. Go to our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, obviously YouTube, and just keep informed with all the latest goings on. Whatever happens from the Masters or to do with it, we'll be trying to tell you all about it. And that is it for this very special episode of the Bunkered Podcast in association with Motocaddy. You can take Augustus back home to his garden. I'm sure
He doesn't sit outside.
Oh, I was going to say,
God,
it must be
no,
such a come down for him to be
know.
in the outskirts of Glasgow when he's from Augusta National.
He's an interior gnome.
Just like your cat.
He's just got dust, yeah.
Yeah.
Indoor cat, indoor Augustus. Brilliant.
Well, thank you for bringing him in.
Pleasure.
And for explaining to us all about how you managed to blow a fortune and stay married. Congratulations. Very, very impressive. Thank you for your time, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you.
And to everyone listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, thank you for joining in. Check us out, the Bunkered Podcast, in all the usual podcast places. And big thanks, of course, to our sponsors, Motocaddy. Until next time, thank you for watching and for listening. That is it from us.